Hey, what it do, YouTube? It's your boy Q, and we are now through 2 weeks in EMEA VCT, and the second week gave us 0 matchups that would see a third map. That's right, all sweeps. So let's go ahead and get down and do what it do. As far as things starting off for the week, on Wednesday, FUT Esports absolutely rolled over Team Vitality, starting off on Lotus actually with a score of 13-4. Team Vitality, they did show up a little bit more of a fight on map 2 on Haven, actually starting off winning 5 of the first 7 rounds there, but it would be FUT Esports, as you can see, really seizing that control in the end. They would be coming out on top 13-10 on their way to a sweep. And if you did tune in last week as far as for our EMEA wrap up, you might remember I talked a little bit having some concerns about NAVI. And I do got to say, I even mentioned NAVI might not be a bad pick to pick against last week because BBL actually looked pretty solid in their matchup against Fnatic. But it was NAVI doing exactly what I said they would do, coming out to prove a point. They ended up winning 2-0 here. You'll actually even see on Ascent, the first map, at one point in time, actually BBL worked their way up to a lead, back from a little bit of a deficit up to 10-9, but it would be NAVI clutching up 4 straight rounds to win in order to walk away at 13-10. They actually followed that up with a pretty impressive defensive round over on Fracture in that second half. You can see there in the second half really stifling that offense of BBL Esports, winning 13-8 in order to get their sweep in order to start off on Thursday. Now, when we talk about Heretics and Fnatic, Heretics wasn't really able to put up much of a fight in their matchup against Fnatic, but I do think that talks more about how well Fnatic has been playing recently versus how Heretics, even though they might be struggling, I don't think this is too much a concern just quite yet. I mean, Fnatic, after all, is the only team undefeated after Vitality lost to start off week 2, right? And you can even see, starting off their matchup here, Fnatic, well, pretty well doing Fnatic things, right? 13-3 versus Heretics, and Heretics just weren't really able to get much of anything going there. And that was on Fnatic's pick, of course. Now, one thing about when we got to Ascent, a little bit bigger of a fight from Heretics, but still not much, especially seeing as once we saw Fnatic get over to that defensive side, they only dropped 1 single round, which did give Fnatic their second sweep of the EMEA season thus far. I honestly can't believe I questioned them being out of that top spot during my Power 5 ranking last week. It's honestly kind of crazy. But as far as moving forward here, we also want to talk about Team Liquid versus Karmine Corp because, well, that matchup happened. It wasn't much of a game. Wasn't really much as far as on Karmine Corp because, well, mostly the stats show it here, right? Yampi and Safe went absolutely ape. You know what? Crazy, right? We're talking about plus 47, only 33 rounds here as well. They literally made light work of Karmine Corp. I mean, we're talking about on Ascent, 13-5 here. Then also when you go to Split, Team Liquid won 12 straight rounds to start off the first half, 12-0 on defense. They lost the pistol and the eco to start off the second half, but then they would close things up at 13-2. Now, as far as when we talk about, FUT Esports, they were able to come out with a surprise for some. I think more people were actually going to be surprised with this game here with as dominant as Koi had looked. Well, dominant, maybe not the best of words for a team that was 1-1, but, I don't think most people would have been picking Giants over Koi here because Koi looked pretty solid in their first week. But Giants, they were 0-2 during Super Week, although, devil's advocate, right? Their losses were arguably to the top teams within the region. But Giants, they would end up jumping all over this Koi team. We're talking about 13-1. 13-1 on Lotus to start things off. Now, in Ascent, it was a little bit bigger of a fight, but there was no overtime it needed. 13-11 to wrap up the week worth of sweeps. So that means as far as for me, my pick'ems, we are at 3-2 on the week. So, a winning record. Pretty good, I have to say. And I have a feeling my pick'ems this week are actually going to be better. But before we get to that, let me know how your pick'ems were, and let me know about how your thoughts on the results altogether were in week number 2 down in those comments below. Remember, every like, comment, those are the things that help me out with that tough YouTube algorithm as we try to chase down that first 250 subscribers over here on the channel. And y'all have been killing it lately. I truly appreciate that. All right, let's go ahead and get into our pick'ems here before we get into our Power 5 for week number 3 here. Because, you know, y'all know that's what it's all about. Oops. Well, I didn't mean to show my pick'ems. F it. Let's just go over it. And we'll go over it game by game here. Because this week, just like normal, our games are going to be starting up on Wednesday. Does have just one matchup here. That's going to be NAVI versus Team Heretics. Look, Heretics' only win thus far has been against Karmine Corp, who hasn't looked that great, right? And while at times NAVI has struggled, I don't see them dropping this one. So I do think it's probably actually going to be a sweep, to be honest. I think I'm going to go ahead and roll with NAVI here. Now, Thursday's games, that starts off with our first time that we've ever seen Koi and FUT Esports squaring off against one another. I do think FUT Esports probably hasn't got enough respect thus far in the season, especially from people like me who kept them out of my Power 5, right? I think they do continue to turn heads, though. I think they'll have the advantage also catching Koi after an unfortunate start of the season thus far. And if they can get that momentum early, this could actually probably be a pretty ugly sweep if we're being perfectly honest. Now, speaking of sweeps, last time we saw Fnatic and Team Liquid playing against each other, that was during Champions last year, and that was a sweep. And while this is a new season, I think the story is going to pretty well remain the same. I don't think it's going to be a sweep here. I don't. I do think we're going to see a 3-map banger, but I think Fnatic ends up walking away with the dub. Now, even though we talked about how Giants were able to get their first dub this week after having a very tough Super Week, and BBL Esports is still the only winless team at this point, I do think BBL actually wins their matchup versus Giants there. I think most people would consider that a upset. So, you know, take that with you, I guess. But I do think as far as wrapping up week number 3 here in EMEA for the pick'ems, we got Team Vitality and Karmine Corp. I think Team Vitality does end up bouncing back off the loss and hands Karmine Corp their 3rd straight L. And so that's going to be my picks right down there, my week 3 picks. Let me know where I'm right. Let me know where I'm wrong down in those comments down below. All right, but just as per usual, I don't want to just do pick'ems. Let's go ahead and actually, you know what? Let's go ahead and do our Power 5 here as well. Remember, this isn't just going to be like a top 5 based off of record, right? That's too easy. We take into account strength of schedule, round differential, stuff like that, and come up with our Power 5. You in my 5? D-Wade's in my 5. Shit, I'm old. Anyway, so we're going to go ahead and get started off here with our Power 5, starting off in that number 5 spot, and that's going to be NAVI. I think this is a team, like I've said before, that does at times struggle, but I think it also shows quite a bit of promise at other times as well. I can't help but feel that at times, NAVI does play to their competition's level, which can get them in trouble against the better teams in the region, right? And depending on how they look against Heretics this week, this could be their last week in my Power 5. Now, in that number 4 spot is going to be a team that I was actually debating on putting in my number 1 spot last week. We realized that was a mistake. That's going to be Team Vitality, the only team with a winning record but a negative round differential. And that's mostly due to their matchup this past weekend against FUT Esports. Speaking of which, FUT Esports is actually going to be the team that makes it into that number 3 spot, with their only loss thus far being a 3-map series versus Team Liquid. But they did look rather impressive against Team Vitality last week, so that's why we're going to go ahead and end up putting them there. But, you know, you're probably going to start to see a little bit of a trend here. Team number 2 is actually going to be Team Liquid. This is a team that was able to beat the aforementioned FUT Esports and was just a few rounds away actually from beating Team Vitality, which would have had them undefeated thus far in the season. And speaking of undefeated, it really shouldn't be much of a surprise seeing them at the top of the power rankings, at least as for right now, as they are the only team that is undefeated in EMEA. But at the top, at least for another week here, that's going to be Fnatic. And our top two teams actually do face off this coming week on Thursday. It's the second matchup. I'm hoping I should be able to try and watch the matchup with the community, depending on my casting schedule. I think I got some CS casting that day. I'm gonna have to double check on that. Best place to keep up with my casting schedule, as well as like our watch party schedule and stuff, is gonna be in the Discord, which is gonna be down in that description below. I do try and catch at least one matchup from each region a week live with the homies, so make sure y'all are popping in there to make sure where you can catch those and come hang with your boy. All right. If you are looking for a cool place to come by for some VCT watch parties, or just want to make sure you're back for weekly news, updates, and stuff like that from all of the regions in VCT, feel free to smack that subscribe button and turn those notifications on. And until we do catch y'all back over here for the next video or for some live watch party action, don't forget, man, with everything crazy going on in the world today, be true, be you, be sincere, game hard and love hard. All right, y'all. It's your boy Q. Signing out.
If you ain't show something, you just don't wanna be. You wanna be me, but you will never be as fresh as see you.